I was reading Ed Bouchette's column, and he covers the Steelers. He's been covering the Steelers since 1985, I believe, and his column with The Athletic, summing up last night. Here is the last line of his column. It was more than the end of a season. It might be the end of an era. Ed Bouchette joins us. Ed, was it the end of an era for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers?
Well, we're going to probably find out rather quickly, Dan. He's due a $15 million roster bonus in the middle of March, and they're going to have to decide whether to pay that, whether to wrap it into an extension, if you will, somehow, or if he retires. I don't think you'll see him play anywhere else. He doesn't want to, but they have a massive problem with the salary cap. They only have 34 players under contract. Some of their better guys are free agents. This does not look like a team that's going to contend this next season. And if you're Ben Roethlisberger, why would you want to play if you can't contend?
What happened after going 11-0?
I still haven't gotten a straight answer why they went to this short passing game, but it was working. He got rid of the ball, everybody knows, faster than anybody in the league after spending most of his career holding on to it longer than anyone in the league. And then defenses caught up to him. They started ganging around the line of scrimmage. All of a sudden, their running game was ineffective. They were batting down Ben's passes at the line because they knew they couldn't get to him in a sack. And for whatever reason, they did not adjust to throwing it deeper until late.
When did you know that the Steelers were in trouble last night?
How about the first snap of the game? That was bad. But they have the kind of firepower to overcome that, and we saw that in the second half. And then Ben just did not look good at all for most of that first half. He was not only throwing 3 interceptions, he was throwing overthrowing guys, throwing wide behind them on slants that were open. I mean, he had some receivers open. He just didn't hit them. And why there was such a difference in the second half with his accuracy, I don't know. But we've seen a lot of that this year, Dan, where he's had a terrible half one or the other, and then a Big Ben half the next one.
Are the Browns going to be in the market for a high-end quarterback? Are Steelers, I should say, are they going to be going into this draft, or are they going to go into the offseason thinking, can we kick the tires on Matt Stafford, or maybe one of the younger quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, if he would be available, or somebody in the draft? What do you think the philosophy is going to be?
I think it would be, if Ben retires, I think they would just go with Mason Rudolph. And if there would be a quarterback available in the first round in the 20s where they're going to be drafting that they like, they could take them. But I don't see that happening, Dan. I think you're looking at 2022 before they get another quarterback. They're not going to trade for one of those guys. First of all, they need the draft capital to rebuild their team. And why would you bring a guy like Darnold in who's going to be on the last year of his contract anyway? And they're not going to sign a free agent. They don't have the money. They're going to be $20 million. Right now, they're projected to be $20 million over the cap with only 34 players under contract.
Assess the Cleveland Browns with what you saw last night, that maybe what you didn't or did see earlier in the season with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, I saw some toughness, some moxie. They were facing all kinds of dilemmas without their head coach, without both line coaches, and then they're losing offensive linemen. They didn't have their best cornerback. They didn't have their number 3 cornerback, and they came in here and just cleaned up. They showed me a lot, and so did the quarterback.
Yeah, and I talked about this a couple of times already today, of finding your identity, like knowing who you are. Cleveland knew and knows who they are. I don't think Pittsburgh knows or knew who they were last night.
They've been 2 different teams, Dan. They were the 11-0 team, and then they finished 1-5. Yeah. And they barely beat some of those teams that they won 11-0. Dallas Cowboys. It was a terrible game for them. The ravaged Baltimore Ravens, missing half their team. They barely beat them. They had to come back to beat the Colts, their only victory in their last 6 games. And that was a big comeback from 17 down. I think that game actually gave them hope, but they have some really tough decisions, and I don't know that there are going to be very many good ones coming up.
I know it's always a delicate situation when you're dealing with Hall of Famers and, like Drew Brees with the Saints. Does Sean Payton really want him back, or I kind of publicly want him back? How do the Steelers, if they want to give the message to Ben, deliver that message in a professional, polite, respectable way that they don't want him back?
They couldn't do that with Troy Polamalu. That was getting kind of ugly. He almost left to go to another team, but he finally retired. Ben, I think, will realize it on his own. And I think what they'll do is tell him, lay out the rebuilding they're going to have to go through. And do you want to go through this with us?
How do you think?
Why would he want to? I mean, he's made enough money. He's not coming back to. He has $19 million on the table extra to be made. He's a $41 million cap hit. He would be $22 million if he retired, cap hit. But he has $19 million he could make. I don't think that's his motivation. He wants to win. He desperately wanted to win another Super Bowl, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I don't see him going anywhere else, Dan.
Football going to be on TVs in Pittsburgh this weekend?
In the past, once the season ended abruptly in the playoffs, people lose interest. But this is a football town. I think you'll see them. I think you'll see a lot of ratings coming out of Pittsburgh for the NFL.
Is there a more painful game in your history of covering the Steelers than last night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's been many. Dan, you mentioned I've been around for a long time. I remember the 94 AFC title game when they were like 10-point favorites to beat San Diego and go to the Super Bowl, and they lost. That was the worst. That was absolutely the worst. And their most recent loss before this one in 2017 at home to Jacksonville after they went 13-3. And by the way, that game was 45-42. They've given up a lot of points in these last two playoff games, both at home.
Ed, thanks for getting up. We appreciate it, and enjoy the offseason.
All right, Dan, thank you.
That's Ed Bouchette. He's been covering the team, as I mentioned, and he's been covering them for a long time, 1985. He covers the Steelers for The Athletic.